Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me. You talked in your speech in Pennsylvania about ordinary people defending democracy. And you had just come from Valley Forge, where people from all different walks of life, from the white soldiers that were there and the black soldiers and the indigenous soldiers and the women of the army who were making the whole town run at that point, learned to work together. And they learned to work together there, partly because they were all being drilled together, but partly because they were operating under the leadership of George Washington. What does that mean to you?
What it means to me is he understood, if I can, you think I'm crazy, but the people I grew up with, they thought it was much of their responsibility to take care of the city, the state, the country, to stand up when they needed help, as it was for somebody with great resources to do it. All the people I grew up with were ordinary, typical middle class, maybe slightly economically in the lower end of the scale. But it was this idea that you treat people with respect. And if there's a need, you kind of step up. We're no heroes. I mean, it's about this notion that ordinary people feel a sense of an obligation in a community. The vast majority of them do. And it doesn't have to be in terms of democracy or freedom. It can be simply in, as Jill said, just an act of kindness. Right after I got elected, I got a phone call. My wife was dead, my daughter was dead, my two boys were not likely to live. They were in their 3 and 4 years old, a tractor trailer broadside of it. But I was lucky I had a big family to gather around. And while there's a lot of heroes getting up every morning, putting one foot in front of it with no help, going through what I went through and worse. For example, I was doing a town hall, I guess a year and a half ago in Northern Virginia. And a woman stood up and she talked about her, had 2 daughters with type 2 diabetes. And she said, I have insurance, I'm not poor, I'm able to have my own insurance, but I can't afford the insulin. And so we sometimes have to cut it in half. And I thought to myself, how it stripped her of her dignity to look at her daughters and knew she couldn't do a basic thing. You've got the best economy of any economy in the world right now. And that literally is true. But people turn on the television, and what do you hear? Everything's negative. Even the good stuff ends up negative. And a lot of it is negative. You turn on the television and you hear about hurricanes that nobody there to help. You hear about nations at war. You'll see what's going on in Ukraine and you see what's going on in the Middle East. But I really do believe in the heart and the guts of the American people. They've never given up. And what allowed them to manifest what they want to get done is they have these guardrails. There's institutions that say they can do these things. No one can stop them from doing these things. And that if they do them, things can get better. They look at people with problems that are worse than theirs. They may not meet the same disciplinary standards that they meet, but they still look and say, we got to do something.
Well, is that the through line then between Valley Forge and the present? The idea that Americans really do just want to get together and work for something bigger than themselves, a community, an idea, the idea that you get to choose your own destiny.
I think ordinary Americans said, I don't want anybody telling me what I can do. Don't tell me that I'm not capable of, like some of us were told, of going to college. I used to be a bad stutterer, and you must be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Ordinary Americans don't want to be told they're not capable. They don't want to be told that there's things that are not available to them because of their class, their color, their sexual orientation. They're a woman, not a man. I mean, they just, no. If I don't want to do it, I won't do it. But if I want to do it, I got to have a chance to try. I think it's more of that about just sort of a streak of independence. And what Valley Forge is about, they knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were in trouble. The idea they're going to bring down the British hold on America was like, come on. But it was like, enough. Don't tell me what I can't do.
One last question. You mentioned in your speech in Pennsylvania George Washington doing that extraordinary thing, which was to walk away from the power that he had built amongst ordinary people to carry him forward as far as he wanted to go, and yet he walked away. What was behind that, do you think?
I think what was behind that is to make it clear, in America we're different. Under our system of government, under who we are as Americans, we're so diverse that entitlement is not part of the deal. And what it says is that no one, including the elected officials, are entitled to continue to do what they've been doing. It requires some, it sounds ridiculous, but it requires some real humility. The idea that I'm the only one who can do this, you do it if you need it. But when there's a system set up and others can do it, in America, the thing I admire is you're not entitled to anything just because of where you come from or who you are.
That's what America's about?
I think that's true, by the way. I really do. And that you can do anything if you're capable. There's nothing you can't do, because almost everything gets down to a piece of confidence that you have. And I think what America does better than any other country is institutionally, politically, practically, we tend to try to build confidence in people, in our children. I don't think there's anything we can't do.
Well, on that note, I'm going to thank you and let you go to the people waiting for you, but it's been a real pleasure.